defending down the distance tendencies, and then adjusting in the game because that's going to happen. Some teams change their philosophy with us. They'll come out and just say, okay, we got to huddle. We're going to run the ball. We're not going to try to keep Rouse's offense off, and then some, like Conley at times went tempo on us, and it caught us off guard. Weiss went in tempo on us, caught us off. So being ready for those in-game adjustments are going to be the biggest thing, and, running to the football and tackling. I think sometimes we as we run to the ball, we assume the first guy there is going to make the tackle. We got to get out of that. We kind of – a couple of those in the game last week was frustrated with that. And the second, third guys sometimes always want to come in and strip. Love the mentality, but let's get that son of a gun down right now. It's third and long. We don't need a strip here. They're going to punt.
Yeah.
There's situations you can go for it when you see it clear, the ball's loose, sure, but let's finish tackles first. I think sometimes we're too anxious to go for the strip, so – I want to see us putting our helmet on contact, going after the ball, and playing physical up front.
That sounds like old school football. That sounds like getting back to fundamentals.
We did. We had a great look this morning. We're not in school these 2 days. That presents a challenge for us this week. But what a tremendous! We had to start at 5:45 on the field. So of course that's starting about 15 to 20 minutes earlier. It's about 35 minutes because usually we meet with the varsity and watch film. So we were all on the field at 5:45, and I mean. It's like, how are we going to respond to this? This is adjustment. And, everybody was still a little slow that first 5 minutes. But after that first 5 minutes, and of course, we kind of scripted that. So we don't come out and try to have your guns blazing at 5:45. Let's build it in. But by the time we got to our core of the practice, man, we were flying around. Our freshman kids that were there this morning did a heck of a job. I was really impressed with them, how they inserted themselves because we have a little different schedule with them this week.
Right.
We'll talk about that. But I thought the look we gave today versus our defense, and it was guys like Carter Sadler saying, hey, I'm going to go be the scout team running back. Nobody asked him. He was, Coach, I'm going to be the scout team running back. I'm going to show you, maybe look at me at doing some running back. I think that was something, and we're going to look at that. Yeah, he did such a great job of giving a look and being physical, running hard. And we tackled more physical today in practice, I thought, than we had all week.
Wow.
The past week in practice. And so credit to those groups mixing in and him jumping in. So I'm excited to see what that'll look like and how that'll carry over the next 2 days and going into Thursday.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the sub-varsity because right now between the two groups there's one loss.
Correct.
And undefeated freshman group. And you said it'll look a little different. We'll talk about that in a minute. But go back to all the district games, and especially last week. There was one highlight where Mason Johnson on the kickoff and your special teams, I think it was close to the 5-yard line between the numbers and the sideline.
Yeah.
Pinned them exactly where you wanted them.
Yeah.
And you had guys blazing down the field. Caden Heitzman, one of them, Blake Lawson. You can name Jacob DeLeon's always down on the kickoff.
Carter Sadler.
Marcus
Wallman.
And these are guys that are on the offense and defense. They're backups, but some of them, like Jacob, is a starter.
Yeah.
Marcus gets lots of snaps on offense. But I think
Corey Simmons
coming down as well. But I think Mason right now is probably kicking, I think, the best set he has all season long. And I think it's because of his confidence. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's, Coach Pels is tough on that group. Coach Stein's done a good job of working, but he's really the height, the distance, and that pin is right where we want it. And a lot of people see us and they want to try to cross the field. And some had earlier success.
Sure.
We cleaned up. I was nervous about that this week because we lost a great one in Calvin Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
He has been the rock on that backside. And so give Marcus Wallman and those guys, like you said, Heitzman, and invest in them, still credit for stepping up because that was a huge hole I was worried about. Yeah. And so I'm so happy for that and how those guys step up. But we got to get a little better now. They did do a little adjustment to us on their sideline. Mason, I think, had 2 tackles, too. Told him, you screw around, I'm going to start putting you at safety. You better watch out. He just smiled. But, we got to get that part. We gave up some field position a little bit there, but 2 or 3 times we had them pinned back in their side of their 10. Yeah. So that's a tremendous job by those guys.
Now, when you look at the starting field position, it wasn't good all night. And yours, on the other hand, the defense did their job, and people are just afraid, I would think, to kick to Troy on a punt if they've watched any kind of film. So that's probably why the good field position.
Well, and he had the big kickoff return. Great adjustment by Coach Pels again this week by putting Cannon deep and moving Troy up into the pooch spot. And so you could see they started to go, they got down set, and he looked up and went,
Right.
You see the kicker look at the sideline like, Coach, I don't know if that's what you want me to do, but
that's what I'm going to do.
He's standing there, and we had to return on to the far side. So Troy brought it all the way across like we wanted, and I think Corey had a big one too. We ended up at the 40, the 45.
Yeah.
I think they were all sides one. We started inside the 50 to start the game. So
yeah, it was a good field position all night, and you make a short field of it. It's like, okay, how long are we going to go? 2 or 3 plays this time and get in the end zone, and then you kind of draw it out a little bit. It's maybe 6 or 7 plays, but I think as far as the special teams, and of course, like you said, we haven't seen Logan punting, and hopefully we don't again this week. And I'm sure he is still practicing and still getting ready for that time when it's going to come into play. But I think all the mechanics, Coach, you had Zach Ramirez doing PATs, but the snap to the hold, Szczanski, Hudson, those 2 are the vital parts of that.
100%.
Zach Ramirez, Mason Johnson, they just have to kick the ball. I know, but there was a couple of times that it was a high snap and Alex brought it down, got it on the tee. And they were able to get it through. So that, to me, those 2 components are so critical in the kicking game.
Alex has grown so much this year in a lot of ways, but I thought when we came in the season, that was a big question mark because Will Fisher kind of just took that thing in the last 2 years. We didn't have to think about it. He worked it. He knew all the components to it. He bailed us so many times because that snap's not always where you want it, and does a great job. And we literally didn't know who was going to do that this year. And, we got into 2-a-days. We got to figure this out. We tried a bunch of different guys. We know Mason could do it. I really don't want Mason Short in that position just as a quarterback. There's so much else on plate. Let's not put that on his plate as well. And it gives somebody else. And Alex early kind of struggled with it. And he took it personal, though. He kept working again. Now, I mean, he's as good as we've had. I mean, he's put it down. I was also excited for him because now, he went in. He's now on our gate formation. And stuck it in there. I mean, said our linemen weren't on the line of scrimmage. I'm like,
yeah, you looked a little puzzled on that call.
Well, yeah, they said our linemen that were on the other side of the gate weren't on the line of scrimmage. They weren't breaking the center's hip, and Jalen was, and they were standing. But we digress. So I was really proud. We're going to continue. Those are fun ways, to get those guys involved, even though they're not necessarily scoring a touchdown. It's a 2-point, but you're getting in the end zone. We were able to get Donnie that situation last week, Alex this week. So that's just ways for us to figure out different ways to get those guys because they're seniors, and I know there's a lot of questions after the game, too, from maybe some people on the field. Well, why are we still chunking it deep in the fourth quarter and this and that? Those are seniors that deserve those opportunities, that have worked hard, and we're trying to get all those guys in those scenarios and situations. And for me, sometimes throwing it on 2nd and 10 and throwing it down, I don't care even if Mason's throwing it. Throwing down the field is a low percentage throw.
Right.
Unless you're wide open, but throwing some of those, you're not. And so it's going to put us behind the sticks. Let's see if we can. And, of course, if I was to run EJ and Cannon all night, they'd still be running. So, there's situations we work on there and try to spread it around and get different guys involved in the game and still execute, do the things we're supposed to. And we're trying to also prevent, get out of the game too. We want to keep gas but I want to keep that defense off field so they don't have to go back out. And, there's just different things you do in those scenarios.
Yeah. And, that's what we say all the time. There's only one ball and only one person can throw it and only one person can catch it. Only one person can run it. So that's the tough part of all this. But, I think in the end, like you said, those kids that put in the time, they deserve, that game time where they're actually getting some quality time. Because when you think about it, down the stretch, it could be that next man mentality, next man up. And so I think that plays big. But let's talk a little bit about sub-varsities.
Yeah.
JV's done well. 1 loss on the season coming into this week. And the freshmen, undefeated. Both of those groups, and you have a lot of let's just be honest, Coach, those freshmen are some big kids.
They're huge.
That I don't know what their parents gave them or whatever the case may be, but that's good because some of those guys, and you have a few of them playing up on JV.
Yep.
And I didn't know, like Cade Janda was a freshman.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Sean Nolan, Judson Mann, Jacob Imran are all playing up. You got Mason Rieger, who's on varsity as a sophomore. And there's still probably 4 or 5 sophomores on varsity that should, in reality, be on the JV, but because of situations, they've been up this year, and we just didn't ever bring them back down.
Yeah.
But, for us, the JV I'm really proud of because going in, that was probably the group if I had to put a question mark on. Yeah. We were thin on linemen in that group because of just where we were in the program coming out of the pandemic. Who was going to be the quarterback starting in the season, we didn't know. Receiver-wise, they were pretty good. Now, I knew the defense was going to be really good. I mean, we just saw those sophomores, Preston Welton, Jackson Anderson, who's a junior, coming back and playing on that. We expected Shane Hudson to be there. Ryland Payne, Cade Heitzman were both, going to be in those roles. But now Scout has come on. Wilkie's come on at outside linebacker. That secondary's gotten better each week with Owen Metis, with Damian Lopez, Aiden Brink, Kiso. There's a bunch of other guys, Ryan Hurt. There's guys, a lot of those guys weren't in the program last year because of the pandemic, either because of the virtual situation, and some weren't, some weren't.
Right.
So we didn't know how that group was to come on. Up front on the offensive line, we got two guys, the two tackles that didn't play for us last year. They weren't even at Rouse last year. And they came from out of state like Idaho and up in Washington. And so, and I don't know how much football they really had gotten. And so they're still learning. And they're good-looking kids, and then up front, we've been able to have to rotate some D linemen both ways and stuff like that. But that group we've pulled from all year, and you're like, okay, well, that eventually is going to catch up to us, and it might. I don't know. But the way they're playing right now and being undefeated, and I mean, they had their one loss, but they're playing undefeated in district. Our freshmen on the other side, there's a lot of pressure coming into Rouse and being a freshman right now.
Yeah.
And I've heard it from all the, like, hey, we're 2 in a row, undefeated, where are we going with this? And so they're playing lights out. And I've been really impressed being able to take a handful of those kids off that group, keeping that group together, the reps that they're getting. Coming in, it was kind of like we've usually come out of middle school, that's Justin Cannon. Man, potentially, I think he's going to be a star.
Right.
In this group, it was kind of like, where's the star going to come from? And right now, it's still evolving, it's still developing, but they are football players in and out. And I thought they would be really good on offense because they're huge up front.
Yeah.
And I knew a lot of these kids because, again, Judson's in that class. I've been around them, the Bryce Johns, and all these kids. I'm like, hey, don't sleep on this running back. He's going to be really good, and he's getting it, and he's going really good. And then watching, the Carter May playing quarterback, how much he's grown over the week. And then that O-line all the way across. The D-line is nasty good on that level. They play physical. You know what? We were a little short. We didn't know linebacker-wise, but Carson Pruitt has just gotten better each and every week. Connor Thompson has gotten better each and every week. And now those guys are gaining confidence where I would say they're probably, if you ask me, and you can ask them, they were probably more baseball players than football players. But because I know Connor's dad, he's going to play football, and so now he's scooping and scoring. He's getting tackles, There for a while we couldn't get him to go play outside. That's all he wants to do is play outside. But, there's just exciting things that they're gaining so much confidence out of it. We really throw the ball well. And my favorite group on that freshman group is probably the secondary is really good. I like them. They're going to be there's a corner, there's some safeties in that group that are going to push some guys next year, I have no doubt. But the receiving core, because when we brought some of those guys up to JV, but then Daniel Myers, Steck, Burson, Noah, those guys, the way they play on the receiving core, and as well as we protect and throw the ball, because that doesn't happen often on the freshman level.
Right.
You start throwing the ball on the freshman level, I've seen some programs do it, but they usually are around the lake area and have some part of lake in their name or park. And it looks like that, and I'm just really proud of the way that group. But up front, man, there's some trees coming, and like today was a great example of them. Like they went in against the varsity D line, and they were like, keep them. We need them. They're giving us the look we need. That kid's making me work. So that's exciting when you doing those things.
When you hear the upperclassmen saying that to a freshman kid, what confidence that brings to them. And it's exciting to see. And this week it'll be a little bit different. There's a flex team, so 2 rosters. You got the varsity, and then you got somewhat of some JV and some freshmen mixed in. They play on Wednesday. Due to circumstances out of anybody's control, I think it's just the way it happens.
Yeah, I just got that call midday Saturday, from Cedar Creek, and it's not, they had some injuries and stuff, and number-wise are struggling, and grades obviously has some impact on some teams. We've dodged, some big bullets there this year, and I'm proud that we had the accomplishment we had that kept those teams together. But yeah, that forced us, and when we get in those circumstances, and he proposed a flex, so it's they got about 10 to 12 junior varsity kids that are going to combine with their freshman team. And so looking at that, okay, we can do that, but I'm still been looking for another game for that group. The problem this week is playing on Wednesday night.
Right.
And then if we would have had a Friday game, I think we'd already have a Thursday game scheduled for our JV. Unfortunately, playing on Thursday and Wednesday, and all of them are on a different schedule. And a lot of people have some different things with, being Columbus Day being that it's, some people are in the in-services like we are this week. Everybody's having to practice after schools in different circumstances. So it's been tough, but I like the opportunity it's going to give us, bringing some of our sophomores with some of that freshman team together. It's going to be a large roster. There's a lot of names, so we're going to do that. The hard part is making sure we get everybody competitively in, rotating them a lot, getting a lot of playing time, because you want to play. You don't want to practice all weekend and not play as much as you can on the sub-varsity levels. And then obviously bringing a handful of those guys up, some of those sophomores and some of those juniors up to varsity, and give them that opportunity, how much they can. Some are going to impact this immediately on special teams. There's a couple of kids on that JV that could play on varsity. They're just behind some really good seniors and a couple of good juniors right now. But they can insert into our special teams right now and play. I'm telling you, I'm real excited about two of them. I'm not going to get into names right now, but they're going to get out there, and I think they're going to surprise getting down the field and covering on kickoff. So
that's going to be exciting this week. And I know it's just a short week, and we've talked enough about that. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about last week's game, in the sense we're going to talk about players of the week. We're going to honor those kids on the offense, defense, special teams, overall player of the week, and then, of course, our scout team, sports med, teacher of the week, which will give you an interesting story off air about that. But we're going to take a break. We come back, we'll have the players of the week, and we'll have more Rouse Raider football. Inside Raider Nation, live from Sharksburger. We'll be back right after this. The Crossover's vision is to give kids and adults a chance to find out what they're passionate about and to motivate them to work hard to achieve great things. We want to bring families together in one destination where they can enjoy their time together no matter what dreams they are chasing. From here, you can go anywhere. The Crossover is Cedar Park's premier sports, wellness, and entertainment destination and is a proud supporter of Rouse Raiders football. Visit crossovertx.com to learn more and go Raiders. Country Store and Barbecue. Our pits are 100% wood-fired with oak, a slower burning wood than the mesquite used by others. Along with thyme and oak, we cook with a dry spice that ensures each plate of Rudy's Barbecue is perfectly ready for you. Apply some of our famous sauce, and dinner is served. Welcome back to Inside Raider Nation, live from Sharksburger. Sonny Zappel along with Coach Mann. Coach, we said a lot of good things happened last week. There's another sweep.
Yeah.
All right, across the board. That is 3.
I think it's 14-2 overall for the year. So, yeah, Coach Elrod had to go buy another broom to put up in the hallway. So, we're running out of brooms. That's a really good thing, yeah.
That's not a bad problem, right?
No.
It's a good problem to have. But we're going to talk about our players of the week. Cody will bring those up real quick. And we'll start, of course, with our favorite. Not our favorite. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, our favorite. Defensive player of the week.
Yeah, for our freshman, Neil Barton. Again, that one of those guys that started really coming on at inside linebacker, playing well. Helps get the defense lined up. Does a great job. It's kind of funny watching them where some of the numbers are all picking at linebacker spots. So you kind of saw that too. So I love seeing that. Talked about Damian Lopez a little bit a while ago. But, again, young man's really coming on and developing at safety. He's really improved so much from week to week, and I'm really excited about his growth and where he's coming. And then Christian Lyons, I thought, had a really great game, really came on throughout the game, had a big sack, really started playing well. Early in the season was going okay, then had the injury, and then, now he's rocking and rolling. So I'm really proud of him.
I think the outside linebackers, both Jason and Christian played extremely well.
Yeah.
Making some big plays, but that sack where they met at the quarterback was a crucial time in the game.
Yeah.
Again, the confidence you see building with these guys, and it's not the flashy arrogance, it's I'm making football plays and I'm becoming a football player is what I see from these guys.
No, 100%.
It's awesome to see, but hats off to those guys, and we'll get to see Neil Barton as well again, hopefully this week in that game on Wednesday. We're going to say rain, stay away. And then offensive player of the week. I'm sure this was kind of one of those. I don't know if we could have brought him out. He was out here earlier, but Cam Kuhn. He has come back into that lineup, coach, and that offensive line, like you said earlier, is just gelling. And one of my favorites besides Cam, because he's about as tall as I am, is Aiden Acton at center.
Yeah.
You look at Aiden and you're like, an offensive lineman?
Yeah.
He reminds me of a kid that I coached. His name is Joe Allen, and he was about that slender. But he gets it done with those big dudes every week, and it's just amazing me. And then he plays on the defensive line as well.
Oh, he does. He's got a great motor, and that's what Cam has. Cam has an amazing motor. He's super strong, and he's working back into getting in football shape. Again, a kid that we didn't have much last year due to the pandemic, and he kind of was unsure where to fit in, and then decided to give it another run. And then now we're starting to. Because his freshman year, it was let Alex block down and pull Cameron. And we're going to win a lot of games doing that process with our freshmen that year. And Cam is getting back. He's passed. He's elevated himself, and he's one of those guys I've been really impressed with, and being humble in the process, knowing, okay, I'm coming back, and he's real close. That junior class is an extremely close group, and all of them are tight. But they came in together when we were not doing well, and they started that trend of the freshmen winning the district championship. And, some of his buddies that he'd played with or maybe started up on varsity, but he came in, he's been so humble but so hungry.
Yeah.
And doing it, just keeps knocking down that door, keeps punching it, and each week getting better, and just excited the growth and maturity he's taken, and then that he trusted the process to come back, and we're starting to see some big gains. And I think he's going to have some big moments coming up here in the future for us. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Daniel Myers for the freshman team. Again, Daniel kind of is in that Drew Henson mold. Mm-hmm. Not super tall, but, man, he plays with lights on fire. I always go back because obviously I go watch the junior varsity games because my son's playing with them, and I'm not going to miss that opportunity. But we film everything, so most of my day going into on game days watching the sub-varsity films, and really we're just getting back to watch the freshman films so that I know what they're doing and seeing how they did. And I'm just like, gosh, dang, there's another catch. Man, he's been making plays all year, so real excited to see him. The coaches reward him and get him in that process. He's really done some great things for us. And then E.J. Moore, he broke the 100-yard mark. It was the joy that everybody had when he broke the long one. And, if we would have given it to anybody else the next play, I think we'd have a revolt on the side, because not only were y'all saying it in the box, but everybody like, give it to him again, pound it again, and him to get in there, because he was being hard on himself early in the game. He was excited for he's been the biggest cheerleader for Justin and Marcus and all that throughout this process, and he's starting to get back into his groove. And there's just something when you're injured. There's it's not, I won't say it's PSTD, but it somewhat can be. And it's obviously not what our military, that's a little different level. Right. But there's that doubt. There's some mental issues. We're talking about mental health all the time in the game now. Mm-hmm. There's stuff you have to overcome, not just physically, but mentally. And I think EJ growing through that process, being the leader, but, not connected, but connected. And now that I just told him a couple weeks ago, I just want to see that smile.
Yeah.
Back on your face in pads in a game, and it's going to happen. And he was kind of frustrated on the sideline. I said, dude, calm down. We're good. And he's like, no, I'm just not playing the level I want to play at. And I said, just keep grinding. It's going to hit. Yeah. You still got a lot of as good as you are, you still got rust on you. And I think we knocked a little bit more chink of that rust off last week, which makes a scary punch with him and Cannon, and then obviously mix and Marcus in that mix. And Calvin when we get him back.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I just think about that stable of running backs leading EJ now back leading that group as a senior, which rightly so he should. But the picture that we were able to capture down on the field was awesome, and he was in the end zone on a knee. But then you saw the celebration of him, jumping in the air. I'm glad that wasn't you; it was Ben Armstrong.
Yeah.
But the smile on his face when he jumped in the air, the kind of stuff, and the celebration by Mason and Troy and Justin, just to know that he's back.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives it validation to him, like you're back, you're ready to go, and honoring him with Player of the Week. I mean, over 100 yards in the game. Ran extremely hard. You could just see every time he touched the ball.
He don't go backwards.
No.
You don't catch him for losses very often, if at all. And he gets those dirty yards at 3 to 4. And, last year, everybody, you talk about Mason and, newcomer of the year and the all-district receivers we have. He was an all-district running back. But you go back and watch the film, there was times he had to make somebody miss in the backfield to get us 3, 2. Just get back to the line. Don't put us that. Those don't show up on the highlight reels or, won't maybe get you all the votes for all the awards. But we don't win games unless he did the things he did last year. And it's so excited that he's back in the mix with what we're doing with those other guys this year. It's a lot of fun.
And I think it's great timing. But we get excited as the media because we don't have to coach or call plays. We just get to tell you what's going on the field. But we'll go to our next Players of the Week, and this is overall Players of the Week. And Jayton's been on there, but he's been on the offensive side and had a great game this past week. Corey Simmons, like you said, I mean, he is trying to – there's that Drew Henson standard, I guess you could say, for these receivers. It's just tough, gritty, and his elusiveness, I think, is the biggest thing. But then you got an offensive lineman on there, which you see at the freshman Zion.
D-lineman.
Yeah,
D-line,
yeah. D-line. Yeah. So Zion, Talbert. I mean, all these guys you look and you go, what separates these guys to be overall? It's just that the game where they just excel and they just and Coach, I don't think it's anything. I guess, again, this is like sometimes an argument, I think, between the coaches because they want their group to, kind of be there. But I think when you sit down and you look at this, it shows you the versatility of this program and all these kids, how many different ones you see. Yes, Jayton was offensive player a couple weeks ago. But now he's overall, where you can see he's just excelling and his game continues to get better. And you see different players stepping up.
Yeah, and what we usually do when those conversations happen, because there's so many we could pick from each week, is like what did they do during the week, during the game that just separated them. And like with Corey, had the big third down catches, 2 big ones, took the screen, offensive yard. But Corey's first one down on scout, special teams every time on kickoff. Like that's one of your best receivers is your gunner on the kickoff team, and so that mentality of that separation there, and we don't have to beg him, we don't have to. It's not. Do I have to do it again? He gets into it, and so that growth from him, the way he blocks was he just separating himself this week again. It was just like, oh yeah, he does a lot, and we take it for granted that we do. Same with Jayton, and Zion kind of had that week where he played really good on the D-line, but had some special team moments as well. So there was just a lot of good things there with those guys.
Yeah, it's cool to see every week when those names come out, and yes, you see a couple of them so far that been on there maybe a couple of times, but then you see like, oh, that player stepped up, and rightly so. I mean, they had great games, and then we go to I believe our special forces. It's called special teams. I don't know, Coach, who made that suggestion to put Nick Hudson as a DN, but he has done extremely well there. But, I mean, again, we talked about that component of the snaps on PATs and on field goals. That is so important, and he has just owned that.
And a little nugget on that PAT, a lot of times you just get down and the guy says ready and you snap the ball, and defense can start timing it, and it doesn't sound like that's but he mixes his timing up great. He'll look up, look down. He'll look up, look down. He's doing different things. They really wanted to attack the A-gaps, and there's one time they tried to jump, and didn't go well for their guy.
Yeah.
Because Nick's not short, and Nick kind of gave it back to him. So, but he gets out there, gets that group set, especially when we transition from gate to the, moving, getting set. He did a lot of great things there, so I was really proud of him on that. You know, obviously Mason, the way Zach Ramirez is kicking as well, those guys are always in contention for it.
Yeah.
Keller Rogers, another good punt returner that's coming up in our program. I mean, he's kind of Troyous back there, like, oh, they're going to kick it to him. They don't know what they're doing. And so, you know, excited about him. But he also ran down on kickoff and did some good things as well. So, again, and then David Moon for the freshman team did an exceptional job returning kicks, covering downfield, doing all those things that you have to do. Those are the things on the freshman team that usually get you beat in a freshman game. I mean, you're like, sometimes you go to watch those lower levels, some freshman games, sometimes in special teams just looks like the little car ran out and the clowns got out and they all ran around. And, you know, we have been so extremely efficient on special teams on the freshman level. Been really, really proud of that coaching group, but those kids paying attention enough to get it right.
Yeah, I think that's that culture that's kind of bleeding down to the JV and to the freshmen, right? I mean, because Coach Pels took that over last year and it made it a point of emphasis. Yeah. And it's like it's a badge of honor, right? Special teams. It kind of like, oh, yeah, that's so important. And I think now because they took that ownership, those kids see that and go, I want to be that guy, too, that runs down and gets that tackle.
Like I told them, you want to be on varsity, that's your first place to go. Mm-hmm. That's where you win your varsity reps probably faster than anything else is how you play on special teams. And you know, yeah, there's some places that, you know, the starters are the starters, but, you know, those guys that are in contention, what can you bring? Because if you're just an offensive or defensive player, you know, you're going to be in a depth chart battle at times. Where can you separate yourself? Like, man, you know, Caden Heights was a great example. Brought him up because of injuries 1 week. You know, didn't know the plan long term, and the way he played on special teams, he
kept him there.
He took somebody's spot and landed it down. And it's a starting position on the field. And then so many times we take that for granted. But, you know, as much as we kick off, there's an opportunity for 7 or 8 tackles a game. You know. You know, punt return, are you one of the guys setting up the wall, or you know, kickoff return, are you getting to your guy? So it's huge. It's a third of the game, and a lot of people don't. You know, I mean, A&M kicking a field goal to beat Bama. I mean, you don't know when that moment's going to happen. Giggle.
Yeah, and there you go.
Joanna Holt, Giggle, whole family.
Yeah,
Giggle.
get that in there. But yeah, and you know, it was a 1 yard short of experience of a 39-yard field goal at Elgin, kicking towards your former kicker Jacob down in the end zone.
Yeah,
I was like,
he was reliving
so
the moment,
ironic.
huh?
Yeah, that was very ironic. At least it wasn't like 3 timeouts called in that instance. But Mason did extremely well. And then we'll go to our sports med. You can't thank those guys enough and girls because of what they do. And Coach Gafford and Lawrenson, they do such a great job. And those kids just work.
Oh, my gosh. I wish one time we're going to have to find a way to do it, or I'll have to get somebody to film what happens when we get back to the field house. When we pull that Penske truck up and back it up, how fast – that thing is front to back, full, especially when we have to take travel bags. And those guys with Mr. Lawrenson and some of the coaches, we can have that thing emptied. I think it's like NASCAR style with under 5 minutes. And, I mean, you almost have to be careful because they'll run you over getting to stuff. But, I mean, they're moving huge carts. And we're not talking about just grabbing it like empty coolers, full coolers, travel bags, laundry carts, all this stuff. They're having to clean each one of those down, wipe them down inside out, respray everything before we put it back up. Oh, yeah, still go in there, still get the training room procedure stuff that you got to do at the end of the game. It's an impressive deal, and again, they're the first ones there in the mornings. You know, they if we're on the field, they got to be on the field. Yeah. You know, and it's early, but you know those guys and girls a lot of times those are the ones I get to joke around with or give them a hard time, and literally they have a great attitude. I mean, you could be out there just being like, I'm doing my job and whatever, but they're usually smiling, they're usually messing with each other. They got so many stories, and I can tell you how many kids I've seen go through that came in as a shy, awkward, you know, freshman that's just trying to find somewhere to go, to freaking dominant leaders in our school. And it's so cool to see it. Riley Bumpus is one of those, you know, and she does an amazing job. Her attitude on there, she's into strength training and powerlifting and stuff too. Yeah. Does a great job on that. And so her with the rest of those kids, they're a great group. Owen Metis was our scout team player of the week. Owen is just – I love Owen on scout team. He's always wanting me to send it because I kind of run that on the back end. Sometimes we play the game and trying to simulate. Coach, he's sending me on the Cobra Blitz, send me on the corner blitz, send me. And I'm like, no, we can't. They don't do that. So last week we did it a couple times, and we call it championship. So usually Coach Pleasant will, all right, it's championship, last play of practice, and we're going to see if we can't they're going to work some type of trick play or something they've been working on. We can call whatever you want. So I always call a timeout to make sure we get it right. He's like, well, you can't use a timeout here. But we always have it, and sometimes we win, and and sometimes they don't, and it's become a competition. Of course, every time when they do get us, I got to hear it from Mason and the old line. Zach Allen's wearing me out, but every now and then Owen will go get them, and he did. So tremendous job. And then Teacher of the Week is Shantae Jefferson. She's a new coach to our staff that's with girls basketball and track, I believe, or softball. Sorry. And I think that's right. She's probably like, what am I doing, Coach? But it was fun because she's a local grown area. She's from Cedar Park High School, and it came up a couple times in some different interviews. And, one of those things, all the Zoom stuff in the world's great, but meeting a person in person can change everything. And the second we interviewed, I was like, we got to get this person on campus, and just been a tremendous asset to the school. Her way she's helped Coach McDonald in the basketball program, but just her intellect in the classroom, sharing stories with the kids, just really has grown our campus in the short amount of time she's already been there.
Yeah. So congratulations to all the players of the week. Well deserved, and we're looking forward to next week where we'll have more players of the week. We also got a friendly reminder, kind of save the date. October 25th, I think, is the one event that's a trunk or treat, I believe, at Rouse.
Coming
will
up.
be
God.
At Rouse. It's a couple weeks away, and I know it's just like you look up, like you said earlier, there's 4 games left, and I'm like, what? That's where we're at. So, but I'll tell you also where we're at, Cody, if you want to bring up that graphic, is our Pick'em. Telling you.
Yes, I'm still at the bottom.
Yes, I'm right there with you. I didn't.
You
There
went
wasn't.
from first to bump.
I went to first to third, just like that.
I'm still over 500 on my pick. As long as I'm 500, I'm okay. I can live with that.
Yeah, my college picks were not good at all. I mean, I could care less. I mean, it's kind of like Texas fans. We don't care if we lose every game all season as long as we beat OU. And you thought you were going to, and that didn't happen. That was, to me, Coach, in a minute 23, and OU was able to score 15 points, was just – you could feel like the air. And I was at home.
I didn't get to see a lot of it, but watching where I thought the game was different is Coach Riley never panicked and kept kicking field goals to keep it at that 2-score game.
Mm-hmm.
Just kept it close, and just in a rivalry game, you just got to keep it close at times. And then Texas late in the game had an opportunity on 4th and 11 and chose to go for it.
Yep.
And I think if you take the points there, now flip it, put the pressure back on. And I know I would probably gone for it too. I mean, be aggressive, let's go. But I thought, take points there in that situation, that game. And obviously, easy to sit back and say it on this other side. But
yeah,
I'm kicking myself for not just sticking with my gut and going with my Aggies.
Going with your Aggies.
I'd have been almost back to 500, right back in the mix. And instead, I let the Bama, but it still was that. Well, that was a fun game. Y'all, you Texas, who cares about that? Giggling.
That was, I think that led into A&M going, hey, we got to try to top that. And sure enough, they did.
You got the Ole Miss Mississippi game, the Ole Miss Arkansas game. That was great.
And then
There was a good fight on. I didn't get to watch the Fury fight. I heard it was great. I don't know. It was like a good day for football.
Yeah, it's a great day. Iowa, Penn State.
Yeah.
That scene after the game.
That almost got me too because I had Penn State.
Yeah, that picture after the game of them just flooding out of the stands when they had that drone up in the air was just like, that's college football. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people like that versus the pro level, even though the Cowboys won. We're not calling Super Bowl just yet because be patient. I've been a Cowboy fan too long to say that. But, looking at the picks, I mean, Chuck went 4-1 in the college, and then he was perfect in the NFL. Cody right behind, putting some pressure. But, Cody had some of those dark horses in the college picks he thought were going to come through. Keeps him in second. So, there's, again, like Rouse in the district standings with you guys, there's some separation going on. And Coach Mann is totally happy with being at the bottom.
100%.
Because that means Rouse football, and you're doing more, and you're moving down.
That's the only record I care about. I want that 14-2 to go to 17-2 this week.
Yes, that would be good. We'll go through our picks, and we have Oklahoma State, Texas, which we're all split. I think Chuck and I took Oklahoma State, even though they're at Texas.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they're down. That typically happens with the Texas team after they lose to OU. They can't beat the Oklahoma's second university. But we'll see. Sorry, dear OSU fan. Then Georgia, Kentucky, which I thought was interesting, and I almost picked Kentucky, but I just don't know that they can beat Georgia. And we thought about that.
That defense is too good.
We thought about that with A&M, and look what A&M
Yeah.
did to Bama. And then BYU and Baylor. Everybody picked Baylor, and I'm going the opposite way. I'm going to pick BYU.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I'm kind of leaning with you. BYU has just been the team this year that seems to keep finding a way to win, and
Yeah.
it hadn't been pretty at times, but
That Boise State
but
game didn't look
Baylor's
good.
playing really well.
Yeah.
I like what they were doing.
So we'll see about that one. Then everybody picked OU against TCU. I think with that confidence, and then we threw this one in here, and we really had to search for this one: Kent State versus Western Michigan.
I'm like, what are we doing?
This keeps
that team
Keeps
I don't-
everybody on the edge. Cody's like, what? So we all went with Kent State except Chuck. He went with Western Michigan because Western Michigan, believe it or not, is 4-2, but Kent State's 3-3. So
I couldn't have told you that.
there you go. That's that little inside knowledge. And then we move on to the NFL, which who knows anymore. Chargers and the Ravens, or Chargers and Rams, right? Ravens. Sorry, Ravens.
Ravens.
I can't read my own writing. Cody picked the Ravens, which you really haven't heard about the Ravens a whole lot this season. But we all went with
They
the
play
Chargers.
tonight.
So it's going to be interesting. And then the Cards and the Browns is really struggle. Kyler or Baker, and we were kind of split. I'm going to stick with Kyler just because he had the Bruce Lee thigh pad.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was
Well, and the Browns are. Like, I keep picking them and they keep losing. I don't. Maybe it's me that keeps. Every time I pick them, they lose, even though they should have won that game last week.
Yes, yeah.
I'm,
And then the Dallas goes to New England, which I think New England is struggling right now. Dallas is really
I think
confident.
Dallas is playing really
And
well.
they can run the football.
They can.
Wow. And 200 yards a game.
Yeah.
I'm looking at 253. You guys keeping that 250 average, just a little
Be
bit above
nice.
the Cowboys, I would think. That would be really good. And then Seattle and Pittsburgh kind of split there. Of course, Chuck's always going to pick Pittsburgh. And then you went with Pittsburgh, and then Cody and I went with Seattle for some reason. I'm not sure why, but
I think isn't Russell Wilson out?
he is out.
I think that was the only thing I saw. Something like he had his hand in something. Like, oh, then I'm going Pitt. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that was. And then the Bucks against the Eagles. Eagles got a big win. Jalen Hurts. I don't know. Chuck picked Philly, and we all went with Tom Brady and the Bucks, even though that was painful for me to say.
Over 400 yards last week.
Yes, I did. For an old guy, that's not too bad.
Pump that brakes on that old Super Bowl thing. He's
Yeah.
pretty good at that stuff.
Yeah, but Daniel Jones had 402 yards
Did he
in
win?
his game last week, and
Did
then
he
he
win?
got knocked out when he went against Jabril Cox. I don't know if you saw that. That was a little concerning to me, but I'm a Cowboys fan. Kind of had a little empathy about that much. And then when Saquon Barkley went out,
Oh, that ankle.
it was just one of those things. And we've experienced that with Dak going out last year. So
Yep.
but we'll see where we stand at the end of the season in our pick'ems and that gigantic trophy that we win. Coach, you'll have to give it. You still have that on your mantle?
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, I think it's about that big, but
I don't have a clue where that thing.
I have no clue. Maybe a championship belt, but only if we're in the running for first place. But
There you go.
we'll see. So this week, Wednesday night, Subvarsity, which will be the flex team, playing at 6 o'clock at Rouse, and then at Bible Stadium on Thursday at 7 o'clock, Cedar Creek. And
It's going to be a really big night for us. Dave Campbell's, we've been their Connection Community Team of the Year. Then we put a little blog about it. They're actually going to be there on Thursday night to honor. We selected Charlie Rouse as our community member of the deal, which that's a no-brainer pick when it comes to that. And so it's going to be cool. We got a couple Zoom calls with them this week, and then they're going to be there in between the first and second quarter to present Coach Charlie Rouse with some, just I think a football and a couple plaques or something for him. So that'll be really big. We're also into October with all the different awarenesses, and we'll all have pink on, obviously with breast cancer, but then we're also going to do Down syndrome as well this year, and so we'll be having special stickers and special announcements of guys there. It's also going to be middle school night, so we're cramming it all into one night. Middle school night as well, so we invite all those guys from Styles and Wiley to come out and be there with us and help cheer us on. Get a big crowd at Bible again. Let's make that thing rock and shake, and let's go.
Yeah,
Get
it's
to 4-0 in district.
Yeah, not to rock and shake too much, but we know
I like it.
We know when that student section and the Royals and the band get going because we can feel it actually rocking at the top of the press box. Hasn't come down yet, but we want to kind of be like stand up and kind of we're challenging the Rouse student section to come out and be loud and proud on Thursday. So a lot of cool things going to happen Thursday night, but Coach, any shout-outs you want to give as we wrap things up?
Thanks to everybody. I mean, made it a special weekend, birthday weekend and everything, coming off an anniversary weekend, birthday weekend. So when ready, those are all done. Now we can just focus on going forward. But, keep everybody, it goes fast. It's happening all the time. Short week, just about keeping everybody in check. And, I appreciate how much everybody's doing for us. Again, be out there Friday night at Bible.
Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah, be there Thursday night at Bible. Let's get that thing loud, and then, let's regroup, and then we got to finish the next 3 weeks before hopefully, put ourselves in position you're in the conversation in the playoffs. I don't think it doesn't necessarily lock you, but depending on what happens, kind of down at the bottom end. But 5 is a guarantee. 4, you're pretty much in. So I would like to be able to, let's check that box, put ourselves in that situation where, for the most part, you're in the playoffs, and then it's about just marking that standard off our list and going about the expectations.
Yeah.
So, but appreciate the Booster Club. We might be bringing on a new sponsor here pretty soon, but hopefully you'll be able to announce that next week. Super excited about all the things they're doing, and the food, the snacks, the drinks, all the work that our Booster Club brings to us each and every week, and then just to our players, keep grinding. Let's keep going.
Yeah, Coach, we're with you there. Shout out to the Booster Club, all the sponsors that bring you Inside Raider Nation, as well as Rouse Raider football on AZ Sports Media. And we can't go without thanking our AZ Sports Media team, all pretty much Rouse alum, except Jim Parker, who helps us occasionally. But it's cool to see those kids because they're so involved, and they want to do such a good job for those kids because they said, if this is something I could have had, this is what I'm going to give them. And they take some really great shots, so I can't take all the credit. Again, the guy was kind of smart enough to get the Rouse alum. It's covering Rouse, but Megan, Robert, Zach, Jacob, and Gabby all do a fantastic job covering everything for A to Z Sports Media, and of course the boss who does such a great job, as well as that on-field camera. We just got to get the harness, so we'll do like the NFL guy. I don't know if we can get that done.
You're running on the field.
You're running on the field. We have to put some kind of orange vest or something, otherwise she might get caught up. I said, just stand by the referee. Typically, that's a safe place to be, unless Coach Mann's talking to him, and then you may not want to be that close. But maybe we
don't need to get that as close. We don't need that conversation on mic.
We don't need that on the air, so we won't do that. But we appreciate everybody on the A to Z Sports Media team. So for Cody Franks, the executive producer behind the screen, for co-host Coach Mann, I'm Sonny Zappetta, voice of the Raiders, saying good night and God bless. And as always,
go Raiders.
Go Raiders.